So Neera Tanden up for OMB director. The Biden administration is standing by her, although it doesn't look like it matters how much they stand by her. Right now, they simply don't have the votes in order to get her approved. That could change. I don't know, but it's not looking likely. So now you see the hack smear attempts, the desperate attempts for mainstream media and corporatists to try to get her approved. And the Democrats are leaning into the most disingenuous arguments you can imagine. So this is from Politico. A double standard going on. Democrats accuse GOP and Manchin of bias on Biden nominations. Charges of sexism and white male privilege are flying as Neera Tanden's nomination looks increasingly doomed. Here we go. Here we go. The cheapest, dirtiest tricks in the book. They're all being brought out for a corrupt corporate warmonger like Neera Tanden. So let me just give you, there's a lot we could say about this article. I'll just give you this one piece here. Quote, there's a double standard going on, said Representative Judy Chu, a Democrat of California, head of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus. Her nomination is very significant for us Asian American and Pacific Islanders. I do believe that this double standard has to do with the fact that she would be a pioneer in that position. So the argument is, the reason why Joe Manchin and Republicans are opposed to Neera Tanden is because she's a woman, and she's a woman of color. That's the argument. That's the argument. The double standard has to do with the fact that she would be a pioneer in that position. So Joe Manchin, according to them, Joe Manchin and the Republicans are sitting around going, I'm opposed to her because she's a woman of color and she'd be a pioneer in this field. I think they know that they're full of shit. I don't think that they believe the stuff that they're saying. I think they know they're playing dirty, cheap politics in order to smear opponents to get them to fall in line. They're hoping Joe Manchin or a handful of Republicans goes, oh God, no, me? I love women and I love women of color, bro. In fact, I love women of color so much I'll overlook all of Neera's policy flaws and I'll support her. That's what they're trying to get done here. It truly is stunning. Now listen, the reason why Republicans are opposed to Neera has nothing to do with the fact that she's a woman of color. The reason why Republicans are opposed to her is because she was vicious in smearing them on Twitter. Now, that's actually the upside of Neera, in my opinion. I thought it was hilarious when she called Mitch McConnell Voldemort and she said, like, a vampire has more heart than Ted Cruz. So that's actually the little bit I like about her. But, like, you can't be surprised if you say that and then those people aren't too hot on you. And you certainly can't say, oh, it must be because she's a woman of color. No, maybe it's more to do with the fact that she called you Voldemort or a vampire and, called Susan Collins, who's supposed to be one of the moderate Republicans, quote, the worst. So, of course, that's why. Also, they just, ideologically, they're not too much in agreement. More so than people would like to admit, there is a little bit of overlap because I think fundamentally Neera is a corporate Democrat, very similar to like a moderate Republican. But there are significant disagreements on policy for these people. Now, when it comes to Joe Manchin told you why he's against her. Joe Manchin loves to play the game of like, I'm a believer in decorum and civility and bipartisan politics, and Neera said really mean things, not just about the Republicans, but also about my friend Bernie Sanders. So he's against her because of the mean tweets. Because he thinks like we have a very toxic political environment now and she's adding more toxicity to it and that's unacceptable. I want people who are more above the fray or at least aren't this controversial. So listen, I don't agree with Joe Manchin's reasoning as to why to oppose Neera Tanden, but that's why he opposes Neera Tanden. He's not hiding anything. He's not secretly twisting his evil mustache behind closed doors and saying, I'm against all women of color. So they're lying, and I think they know they're lying. And I don't think this is going to work, but it says a lot. This is the only trick that they can go to, doesn't it? And this was the same playbook that happened when Hillary in 2016 was the nominee. If you disagreed with her, even if you laid out in detail the policy disagreements, it's, oh, you're against her because she's a woman and you're a sexist. I mean, how many times the old Bernie bro smear was trotted out to call, people who are the left base of the country, the people who support the most left-wing policies, somehow they're racist and sexist and bigoted and whatever. Fill in the blank with whatever kind of smear you want. But like, Here's the bottom line, man. Here's the bottom line. Mean tweets aside, how many times have we gone over Neera's record? Neera Tanden said we should bomb Libya, steal their oil, and use the proceeds to pay down the U.S. deficit. She advocated for Social Security cuts. She punched Faz Shakir when Faz Shakir asked Hillary Clinton a question about her support of the Iraq War. The whole point of the Center for American Progress was to be corrupt and represent the corporate Democrat wing of the party. And that's exactly what happened. You take money from Bloomberg, and then you axe a report on Bloomberg's anti-Muslim bigotry. You take money from the UAE and Saudi Arabia and Israel, and then you play ball on that front as well. You're not going to be as tough on them when they're paying the bills. And the reason why CAP existed was to be the shadow government for a Hillary Clinton administration in waiting. That was the whole point. And so, yes, you absolutely should reject her. You absolutely should vote her down, but you should vote her down based on policy. Yes, the Republicans and Joe Manchin are correct with the wrong reasoning, but you know what? I'll take it. I'll take it. But this is all they have to respond. And this is why good people are turned off to politics across the board. Is because, you know, who wants to get involved in this debate and this discussion and then immediately be accused of being a racist, sexist, bigot, everything negative under the sun? And people just... The most annoying thing ever is when people tell you what you believe while you're trying to say, like, no, I'll tell you what I believe. I'll tell you exactly what I believe in as much detail as you want. And then they just swat it aside and say, no, the reason why you're doing what you're doing is what I say. I say it's X, Y, and Z, and that's why you're doing it. Why would anybody want to get involved in that conversation when they feel like they're being maligned? So anyway, this is all they got, man. This is all they got. And thankfully, it looks like it's probably not going to work. Neera Tanden's hopes are hanging on by a thread. Barely. They just postponed some of the hearings. So we'll see. You know, the gavel might be pounded pretty soon that she has no chance at all.